It's hard. I'm not gonna say it's not hard. It's really hard because there's so much hope and life in children, right? And we all see it, we all know it, and to have that in a sense be taken away, it's really hard. It's hard on the families, it's hard on us as healthcare workers. But one thing that really helps to anchor me is my faith. When I got my score back, it was I think that was my lowest point because I was like, I'm never gonna match. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm like, what do I do? That was my lowest point that morning. Telling my grandma, like, hey, I'm gonna be a pediatrician. Telling my little cousins, like, those things meant everything in that moment. I would go through everything again for that moment.
Hello, hello. You're listening to the IMG Residency Match podcast, where ambitious international medical graduates like yourself get the insider strategies and inspiration you need to match into residency. I'm your host, Shauna K. Lester, the founder of Memorable Essay and the creator of the IMG Residency Match Application Accelerator, a program that helps you create a memorable residency application to match. So if you're looking for proven strategies to match, and the inspiration to create a medical career you absolutely love, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. I am thrilled to be joined by Dr. Peter Thompson, an accomplished and charismatic young doctor who went from community college to medical school, then to matching in pediatrics in Miami, Florida. Dr. Thompson is pursuing her ultimate goal of service to children around the world. That's a value that she developed within the walls of her home in Hopewell, Hanover, Jamaica. So today you're going to learn that while matching and beyond can be surprisingly challenging, just like Dr. Thompson, you can rise to the occasion. Welcome, Dr. Peter Gay Thompson. Thank you for joining us for this conversation on the IMG Residency Match podcast. How are you doing?
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well, and it's a real pleasure to talk with you tonight because I think that the insights that you have to offer will be of tremendous value to those who are looking to undergo the transformation that you have and the growth that you're going to tell us all about. So I'm thinking that maybe we could start with where Dr. Peter Gay Thompson's life story begins.
So it starts in obviously in Jamaica, my beautiful island. I love being Jamaican so much, but I am from the rural part of Jamaica in Hanover. And when I tell people Hanover, they're like, "Oh, where it is?" I'm like, "It's there. It's on the map."
Okay.
My mom and dad were like basic blue collar workers, but they definitely instilled in us like we could do anything. And I think my dad actually told me that one time, and I believed him. I don't know why, but when he said it, I believed him. So I grew up knowing that I was going to do something great. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I was going to do something great. My parents were behind me the entire way. I went to primary school, then I went to high school, and then I just fell in love with medicine because my mom has always been a person of service and taught us to be people of service through our faith. So I knew I was going to be in service, and medicine was just the pathway that I chose to serve in. It's been an amazing journey.
And when you talk about your mom being of service, what were some of those ways that you saw her be of service as a child to the point where you said to yourself, okay, I'm going to be like that one day?
Well, first thing, I was not an easy child to raise.
What do
I
you mean by that?
I was the why child. I was very
Okay.
curious. I always wanted answers. Like you could just not tell me to do something. I wanted to know why. I was
Oh,
that
okay.
child. So she had so much kindness and so much patience in serving me
Mhm.
as her child. And then my mom always does this thing on every Christmas. She packs bags and hands it out to the less fortunate in our community. And it's always been something we've always done. So it's always just been a part of my life. But then I realized as I grew older that how impactful it was and how unfamiliar in a way it was to have this level of kindness just shown, just demonstrated yearly. And it was beautiful as I grew older and gained more understanding of what she was doing and the person that she is. And she just lives a very kind life. She will literally give you the shirt off her back. She speaks to the person next to her in the taxi. She's just a kind individual. And I think she serves people in so many ways that has just been so inspiring for me.
And Peter Gay, I will tell you that even as a Jamaican, I'm not ashamed to ask you this question. What is Hanover known for? Because when you said it is there in my head, I said, yes, it is there. But what is it known for? What is Hanover known for?
Listen, a part of Negril is in Hanover,
Okay.
and Bustamante is from Hanover. So
Okay.
we have two things.
All right, so the story begins in Hannibal, Jamaica, and you're getting all of these messages about service and about kindness. And so you end up going to medical school.
Yes.
But pediatrics in particular, now it's time to choose a specialty. Some of the people listening to us will even be deciding between pediatrics and family medicine, for instance. Very, very common. How did you know that pediatrics was where Dr. Thompson was going to be?
So my journey is a little bit different. I initially wanted to do surgery. I wanted to be a ENT surgeon. I could get my fix of, pediatrics, but I could also get my fix of surgery. And it wasn't until intern year where we had to do like all the major specialties, and I landed in pediatrics. And for me, I always feared that like parent communication. But for me, having to sit with parents in all levels of grief and joy and all these range of emotions had become so valuable to me and felt like service. So it reminded me of service. And having this precious gift from somebody to take care of in pediatrics, which it felt so much like service. It felt so familiar. It felt like something I would be proud of. It felt like something that I was created to do. And it also felt like I was fulfilling my mom's legacy in a way by doing this kind of service. So that's what led me to pediatrics. I would have never thought in med school pediatrics was what I was going to do. But in internship, I just really fell in love with it. And I also had a mentor who was a pediatrician. And I remember her telling me, like, hey, this is the most meaningful thing that you could do with your life if you intend to do service. So I really just fell in love with service in pediatrics.
And I'm curious. I remember once talking with someone, she was applying to a totally different specialty. But whenever children came on, she would just light up. Whenever the topic of a child came up, she would just light up. And I said to her, I know you know what you want to do, but do you realize that you really light up when children become the topic of discussion? And then she told me a story about how, she had an experience the first time she experienced patient loss with a child and how she just could not continue because it broke her so much, although she loved it. So when you're sitting there in your service, holding joy, holding grief, holding all of those parent emotions, how are you able to still take care of yourself and say, you know what, I can hold this for the rest of my life?
It's hard. I'm not gonna say it's not hard. It's really hard because there's so much hope and life in children, right? And we all see it, we all know it, and to have that in a sense be taken away, it's really hard. It's hard on the families, it's hard on us as healthcare workers. But one thing that really helps to anchor me is my faith. That's something that I have to lean into, and I lean into my emotions. If I have to take a break and cry and let it out, I do. But I think one of the things that always helps me with pediatrics is that I like to communicate with the parents and find out what they're going through because I feel like even as hard as it is to lose a child, the joy of even having a child sometimes supersedes that. So speaking with them, they could give you so much hope and so much joy in such a devastating situation. So I think a combination of all of those things is how I push through, but it's really hard. It's really hard some of those days.
Wow. And for clarity, so are you saying that sometimes there are parents who their child is not doing well, but for them, even if they were to lose a child, even if the child were to demise, they would tell you that the joy of having had the child was so much better?
Definitely. I've definitely had those experiences
Wow.
where parents know what the prognosis is. They know that it's not going to be how they thought it would be. They know that the end might be that they don't get to bring their child home. But the fact that they got to hold their child, for religious people, the fact that they got to bless their child and baptize their child, the fact that the family got to see the child, those things I mean, it's going to be hard, but they're so grateful for those little moments that we're able to provide for them and be with them in those moments. You develop such close relationships with these parents when you realize just how grateful and just how hopeful things can be even in the worst of situations. So it's definitely a blessing to witness this when it happens.
Wow, that is so profound. I would never have guessed that, somebody would say that to you. Wow. So now that you are in residency training and you can share with us where you are in training, how has your view of being a pediatrician or what it takes to be a pediatrician evolved versus the view you had in medical school or even, just post medical school about who a pediatrician is? What do you know now?
I've realized like a pediatrician is definitely a medical professional in the best sense, but we're also friends. Listen, some of my patients, especially like my preteens and my teens, like when I
Uh-huh.
walk into the room, it's like, hey girl, what's up? One of my patients the other day, it was a new patient. She came in, she was 8 years old. After the visit, she was like, you know what? I'm gonna keep you.
Wow.
She was like, she just looked at me. She was like, I'm gonna keep you. And I was like, we'll keep each other. I've realized that, I could be a friend, I could be a confidant. In addition to being, the healthcare worker, I could be an ally of the parents. I can't tell you how many times parents have come to me and be like, she doesn't want to do this. This is needed. We got to talk to
Uh-huh.
like this, and I got you. So
Uh-huh.
I've definitely expanded outside of just being the physician to being a lot of other things, and it's amazing.
That is hilarious. All right. When you were applying to the match, did you have any low points during your journey? Because now that you're on the other end of it, I can't even imagine what that transformation is like, and you can tell us about it. But getting there, were there any low points in your journey, and how did you get through them?
One thing that I was really disappointed in for me was my performance on like the step two exam.
Okay.
I thought I was gonna kill this exam. And when I got my score back, I think that was my lowest point because I was like, I'm never gonna match. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm like, what do I do? That was my lowest point that morning. But I feel like at that point I'd gone too far. I mean, I had to go through with it. At that point, I just had to pivot my mindset. I was like, this is what I have. Like, I cannot change this. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? And you definitely helped with that. Like, this is who I am. This is the package that I have. And it really is just about like marketing this package the best way that I can. But that was definitely my lowest point in the application process.
And I think looking back now, you can say, I just had to tell myself that this is what you have. But what were some of those practical steps in the moment? Because I kind of remembered, but not exactly. Because whatever I would have told you is something that I probably really believe. So even when I think about you, the first thing that I think of in my memory of you as a person is just the idea of service and wanting to really like pour into these children and give them this transformation, or even Peter Gay had this wonderful story of being on a bus a day when her car broke down and just wanting to help everybody. So, actually, the thing at the top of my mind when I think of you is about help. So, what I would have said to you in that moment really was what I'm sure your program ended up seeing, which is that you're a whole person. You're not just this score. And the patient who decided to keep you, she probably didn't ask you about your step two score, right? She wasn't trying to evaluate that. She was evaluating the service that you gave her. But when you were in the pit of it, before you were able to say, yeah, this is what I have, what were some of the practical things that you did? Did you pray? Did you call a friend outside of our conversation? Like, what did you do to pick yourself up? Because I'm sure that it probably really, put you down for a minute.
So it took a while to pick myself up actually, because one of the things I did, which I don't recommend people to do, is that I started researching like what's the score, like the mean score for matching into pediatrics. And it wasn't matching up to the score that I had, and I was freaking out. But one of the things that really helped me is my mentor back in Jamaica. She got me in contact with somebody who was doing pediatrics at the time in the program that I'm in now. And I spoke to him for about 2 hours on the phone. And he was
Mhm.
like, Peter Gay, if you want this, even if it takes two or three tries, like you have to go with what you have and do what you have to do. So I cried, I prayed, and then I kind of just went along the path, like hoping for the best, praying for the best, but knowing that, hey, this is what I have.
And you raise a good point as well. Like you're so far ahead in this process. Like you've already invested so much. It would
Mhm.
be so weird for you to pull yourself out of the process, essentially, like to reject yourself
Yeah.
before even giving a program a chance to see what you have to offer. Okay, so thank you for sharing that. And so you press ahead, you have this conversation, you apply, you match. What does that feel like in your body? So walk us through. Were you at work? Were you in your bedroom? Were you kicking a stone down the road? What was going on when you found out, and how did that feel?
So I took the morning off because you don't know what's gonna happen, you know?
Right.
So you just have to prepare well. So my boss at home was really nice. So he gave me the morning off, plus or minus the afternoon, depending on how the morning went.
Okay.
And I had this prior group with applicants who were applying at the same time. And between like 7:45 to 8 o'clock, we just kind of played like worship music to kind of
Mhm.
get our minds and everything ready. But when that email came in, I
Mhm.
sobbed. Like it felt like a weight off my shoulders. I just
Mhm.
sobbed. I think my mom actually thought I did match because it was really just like, oh my God, I cannot believe this happened. I'm so happy first of all, but I'm so relieved that it's finally happening. Like I had this dream, I went for it. It was like everything coming back to my mind of everything I had gone through to get to this place.
Mhm.
And one other thing that was really important to me is that my grandfather, he passed away when I was like 4 or 5 years old. When I was born, when my mom brought me home, he looked at me and was like, this one is gonna be a doctor. And at that
Mhm.
point, even I don't think when I graduated from med school, I felt this weight. At that point, when he says, congratulations, you had matched, I almost like saw his face, like being so proud and, you know,
Mhm.
being able to, tell my dad, like, hey, I'm gonna be a pediatrician in the United States, telling my grandma, like, hey, I'm gonna be a
Mhm.
pediatrician, telling my little cousins, like those things, oh my, those things meant everything in that moment. And I think at one point it was for me, but like when I went through telling my nephew, like, hey,
Mhm.
your aunt from Hanover that people pretend that doesn't exist
Well, Jamaicans don't even know what it's known for. I'm here being schooled. Hmm.
is gonna be a pediatrician in the United States. It was everything. I would do
Hmm.
that process. I would go through everything again for that moment.
A quick pause to thank our sponsor, the IMG Residency Match Application Accelerator. The IMG Residency Match Application Accelerator helps international medical graduates like you create a memorable application to match. Learn more at bit.ly/IMG match. Now back to the conversation. What was the best reaction? So you're telling mommy, daddy, niece, nephew, I'm listening to you as you go. Who had the best reaction that you remember to your
Hands
match news?
down, my dad. My dad is like the coolest guy. He has like locks. He's always like dressed in a suit on the upper part and like shorts in the lower part. My dad had the best reaction. So I called him and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like sobbing. Oh my God, daddy, daddy. He's like, I knew it. And that was
Okay.
it.
No, okay, okay. That's it. So he knew it, locked
That was
already,
it.
nothing less.
I died laughing. He was like, I knew it.
And that was it.
That was
No
it.
screaming, no crying,
No
no.
screaming, no crying, no like inflection to his voice. It was just, I
Wow.
knew it. And that was it.
Oh my gosh, your excellence does not surprise daddy. Okay, that's so wonderful.
It
All right.
surprised me.
That's hilarious. Well, shout out to Daddy and thank you for being so confident in Dr. Thompson. So we have matched. You sob, you tell the family it's wonderful. Hanover is on the map. Here comes intern year, suitcase through the airport, all of that. Are you hitting challenges again? I don't want to assume that you had challenges.
Oh my God,
Did
I
you
had so
have
many
challenges
challenges.
in your intern year? What was that transition like?
It was so hard. And I thought, listen, I'm Jamaican. I've been through so much. My emotions are like a 10. I thought I was gonna kill this. I remember my
Mm-hmm.
family came and moved me into my apartment. I had never lived alone except like med school before. And they moved me in, they made the beds and everything and put everything in place before I came. And when they drove off, I wept. I
Oh,
was like, I'm alone.
I'm alone.
I'm like alone. It's not like I could just take the nuts for back
Right,
on the
right.
weekends. I'm like, I'm alone. And I felt alone for a very long time. For the first 6 months, I wanted to go back home. I was like, I'm not sure I could do this. I don't know. I was telling my mom, like, I'm sad, I'm scared, I'm nervous. I don't know if I have what it takes. Like there are a lot of amazing people here. It was a lot of emotions at once, and processing them by myself was a lot. But my program was very good. I have an amazing mentor here and I was able to speak to her. She got me in contact with help. I actually started therapy for about 6 months, which
Mhm.
really helped with that transition period. And I think just being open and speaking to my mentor and getting a little bit of help with my emotions and regulating them, and it really, really helped. But it was really hard in the beginning.
And what was it, if I may ask, what was it behind being alone? So you mentioned not being able to jump on the nuts, which for the non-Jamaicans is a fancy bus, like your Greyhound and your Peter Pan. I don't know what we have elsewhere in the Caribbean, but you couldn't jump on your fancy express bus and get back home. Was there a fear that if something went wrong, you wouldn't have anybody who would rush to you? Was it a thought that you're doing something hard, but you're doing it alone? Was it the feeling of finally having the thing, but all the people who motivated you to get the thing were not a part of it? What do you think it was?
I think what it was is that for the first time, I'm like a very patriotic person. I love my country, I love my people. And when I did medicine at first, I imagined it just being that, like service to my people. And I think for the first time when I came here initially, it didn't feel that way. Like medicine didn't feel that way. And then I didn't have like the comfort of my family to just go home to. I missed my mother's voice. I missed my bed. I missed my sister. I missed a lot of having just the comfort of family. And I didn't have that. And I wasn't gonna have that because I mean my family's just all over the place. So that definitely was the biggest thing. And to be honest, it was a little bit of insecurity as well. Because for the first time I was in a room with 21 other people who had the same goals that I did not know at all. Because med school in Jamaica is big, but in some ways you get to know a lot of people, the year above you, the year below you. So when you go into practice, you know most of the doctors you're working with. And in this place, I knew no one, absolutely no one. So it felt very isolating. Your accent is different. Somebody's like, oh, what did you just say? And I'm like, it's English.
It's Hanover English, guys. That's why you
Hanover
cannot
English.
understand.
So it was very isolating and it really brought up a lot of emotions that I didn't know was there. And I think if I went home to my mom who was able to like motivate me and bring me up, it would have been a lot different. But I succumbed to a lot of those emotions. But I mean, thankfully, with therapy and with having somebody physically there, like my mentor, it really, really helped.
And has your definition of service expanded? Because now, I guess you were serving your people, the people from your country, and now you're serving people from all over the world. How does that feel now to be of service, but on, I don't want to say a bigger stage, but to a more diverse set of people in a different place? How does that feel now?
I think that was the reason why God ordained everything to happen the way that it did. Because I
Yes.
feel like I never imagined that I could be of service. This is going to sound weird, but I never imagined that I could be of service to people that I don't speak the same language with, to people that I don't look like, to people who we don't have a lot of things in common to. I have learned how similar we all are just by being in service. Like it's amazing how much we have in common, even though we may not look like we have anything in common. And definitely, it definitely has broadened my horizon about what service is. And I've realized now I might not be the pediatrician for everybody I come in contact with, but for that Jamaican person who gets to see me here and give me a hug, I love that. The Caribbean people who I'm like, where are you from? I hear an accent, I'm like, where are you from? Where are you from? So we could vibe a little bit. For my Hispanic people who teach me Spanish, they're like, oh, that's not how you say it, darling. Say it like this. And learning all about some of those Caribbean islands and Latin countries that I didn't know. Like they're of service to me and I could be of service to them. Maybe not the way I imagined, always medical, but definitely they're helping me to see service in a new light.
And you forgot your 8-year-old, where without disclosing anything about her identity, where about in the world is she from? The one who decided to keep you.
So she is Hispanic, Latina all the way, spicy.
Okay.
She's such an amazing person.
Okay. Oh, that's so wonderful. And I actually, it's so funny because I got very emotional when Peter Gay said in some way she could never imagine, but You know, like that's, well, I actually don't know how much of it you know, but in terms of with memorable essay, a lot of it is inspired by my own experience, just learning and getting different educational opportunities. And I totally understand what you mean when you say you never thought of it. Like you find yourself in some rooms or at some tables or doing some things, and you're just like, "Me from," in
Exactly.
my case, it's like Portmore, Jamaica. I'm here with these people from all over the world, literally being of service. And it definitely is very humbling and it can take a lot of getting used to, but it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter where you're from. If you put in that work and if you are so blessed or so guided, you can be of service anywhere, right? To people
Exactly.
in so many forms. And so to people who are looking at this journey and they're thinking of undertaking it, they might not even have started. What would you say to them that they need to get in their backpack to get ready for the ride, all the way from the start of the process until match day?
I think first, if you pray, pray. If this is a journey that you want to undertake, you don't want to do it because everybody else is doing it. You don't want to do it because it's the new thing to do. There's a lot of emotion. Financially, it's a lot. I think support is the next thing you need in your backpack. You definitely need to drive. You need the will to do this. You have to want to do it. You need the support. And I'm not just talking about financial support, but emotional support. You're going to be on a roller coaster ride, having to do all of these exams, having to leave your family, having to leave your job to go do these exams by yourself. It's very taxing, and the studying is also very taxing physically and emotionally. So you definitely need somebody to fall back on, somebody to talk to and explain your emotions to. Another thing you need if you're building like a list for this, you have to have perseverance. It's not going to be easy. I know
Mhm.
for some people, they're just so smart, they do the exam, they score high, but it's gonna be really hard. You have to be determined to get this. You have to know that this is what you want and push through. And then when you get there, don't forget where you're coming from. Don't forget the journey that you took. Don't forget all the people who helped along the way. And know that it's not the end. Like matching is not the end. Like there's so much more
Okay.
that happens after the match. So think about it as a comma and not a period, because there's so much more that happens after that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And when you wake up now and you look in the mirror, you have matched, you are training. What is the biggest transformation that you've seen in yourself because of having matched?
I think the biggest thing is I match into a program that's incredibly diverse. I don't want to say I'm not social, but I'm not the most social person you've ever met.
Okay. I
Um,
actually would disagree. Having met you, I was like, wow, she has jokes for years. She's
I
quite
mean, I have
social.
jokes because it's Zoom. In
Ah.
person, I'm kind of I'm not like I'm not all the way in the corner, but I probably won't initiate the conversation,
Mm.
but I have had such an amazing growth socially. I am so proud of myself. Like even my mom is surprised. I am
Uh-huh.
so proud of myself for how I've been able to expand myself socially, to stretch myself, to stretch my emotions. And the one thing I told my co-interns the other day, so crazy, is that I have such a big Hispanic population in my program, and they hug and they kiss each other at every greeting. You could see them
Okay.
3 times for the day, they'll hug you. And I'm like, girl, I just saw you. I'm like, I just saw you 30 minutes ago.
Get off me.
But no, I have become such a hugger. I went home for Thanksgiving. I was hugging everybody, but they're like, what's wrong with you? They're like, where did this come from? I go home to my Jamaican family, hugging and kissing everybody. They're like, what is wrong
Aw.
with But I have learned so much about like cultures and food. My friends are always trying to get, and I don't really like, I like Jamaican food. That's my box. But
Okay.
I have expanded myself so much socially. I am so happy for this experience because I don't think I would ever have done that had it not been for my program, for my co-residents, for my faculty. I love my job. I love where I work, and it has caused me to expand socially so much.
Oh man, that's such a wonderful note to end on expansion. Thank you so much, Dr. Thompson, for talking with us about your journey all the way from Hanover, Jamaica. A part of Negril is in Hanover, guys. Bustamante is from Hanover, and Dr. Peter Gay Thompson, the pediatrician, is from Hanover as well. Thank you for taking us on your journey and for sharing your mom's inspiration in terms of service, going through the match process, and all the ways that you're growing. Where do you hope to see yourself in the next 10 years?
So in the next 10 years, definitely continuing service. I want now my like fellowship opportunities are like either PICU or nephrology. Who knows? I might do both.
Okay, okay, okay.
So definitely continuing to serve in that capacity and definitely going home to serve. I miss my home and I definitely want to take everything that I've learned here and be impactful and helpful in any way that I can back home to the children of Jamaica. So that's whether that's through like a charity or I'm physically there working in the hospitals as often as I can. However that will look, that's such an important thing to me. So that's definitely a part of my next 10 years.
Thank you so much. No borders. You reminded me of Doctors Without Borders. You'll definitely be a pediatrician without borders, right?
I
Thank
like
you so much for talking with us. And I hope that our conversation was helpful. I'm sure it was inspirational to the future pediatricians or maybe even your fellow pediatricians. You know, sometimes you're going through something and you're thinking that you're alone. But I've actually heard so many people's transition stories, and you were so honest about the fact that those few months were hard. You didn't just land and became the top performer, outshining everyone. And I actually know that a lot of people who have matched will hear themselves in your story. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you.
Hey friend, thank you for listening to the IMG Residency Match podcast. If you're ready to create a memorable application that gives you the best possible odds of matching into residency, connect with me at bit.ly/IMG match. That's all lowercase. And you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Memorable Essay. Or handle is Memorable Essay. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow, leave a review, and share it with another IMG who's on their match journey. Your support helps more ambitious IMGs to find our show. Until next time, keep focused and be memorable.